Hello and welcome to another video from Byte Analytics. In recent weeks, I've been creating videos and content around how you can use AI to boost your productivity and streamline your workflow, specifically around Power BI. More specifically, I've been creating content around how you can use the Claude desktop app and how you can use Visual Studio Code to interact with your Power BI desktop file. And it was through one of those videos that I received a question from a comment asking, can Visual Studio Code interact with a shared semantic model? And the quick and short answer is yes, absolutely. And so in this video, we're going to walk through how you can use Visual Studio Code to perform the task of interacting with a shared semantic model. After all, in an enterprise environment, the reality and most probable likelihood is that you'll be working with a shared semantic model and not a Power BI file, which, to be fair, let's face it, it's not the right way to do things anyway, but it was purely from a demo point of view how you can leverage AI. So without further ado, let's continue with this demo today, and I'm going to show you how you can use AI through Visual Studio Code to interact with a shared semantic model which is published on the Fabric portal. So here on the screen you can see the notorious AdventureWorks file, which I always use. If I go over to the Fabric portal, we can see what's inside the Byte Analytics demo workspace. So currently you can see I've got a few lake houses, I've got a few notebooks in here, but I don't currently have a semantic model. So let's go ahead, let's go back into Power BI desktop and let's publish this particular report, this model out to the workspace we've just looked at in Fabric. So Byte Analytics demo, that's the target workspace. Let's click on select. Okay, so after a few seconds, this semantic model has now been published out to the Fabric portal. So let's close that and let's go back to Fabric and refresh our workspace. And you should now see the AdventureWorks semantic model now available in the workspace. So let's go ahead and open that. And if I look in here currently, I can see I have the same measures as per my desktop file, the Power BI desktop file. So I have a sales amount measure in here, but what I want to do is create a gross profit measure. Now, before we get to gross profit, we need to create another measure, which is the total cost. So if you're familiar with the finance function, maybe you've been experienced in that area, you will know the typical calculation for gross profit. Even though it varies potentially from business to business, the general calculation for gross profit is usually sales minus total cost or cost of sales. So we already have sales amount, but we don't have total cost. And that's what we're going to create now in the semantic model using VS Code. So let's go ahead and launch Visual Studio Code. So here we are in Visual Studio Code, and the first thing that we need to do is create an active connection to our workspace, the semantic model which is held in the workspace. You will probably remember the first time we did this in a previous video, we were connecting to the Power BI desktop file. On this occasion, we want to connect to the shared semantic model. So let's come in here, and in the new chat window, which you can access from the top here, you can either close it or open it. So let's ask VS Code to connect to the said workspace. So here we are. I'm instructing VS Code now to connect to the AdventureWorks semantic model in the Byte Analytics-demos workspace. Now there's a deliberate error with this instruction. So let's see what's going to happen, because in fact there is no such workspace called Byte Analytics-demos. I've added an extra S on the end just to demonstrate whether VS Code is going to be capable of connecting out. So let's go ahead and see what this is going to do. Now, because we're using VS Code to access a shared semantic model, we will need to provide our credentials and authenticate. So let's go ahead and use the existing account. And now that we've done that, the authentication step is complete. Let's close the window. Let's go back to VS Code. And you'll see the message that comes back here is VS Code could not connect to the semantic model because it failed to find the Byte Analytics demos workspace. And that was a deliberate error on my part, just to give you an idea of how VS Code will respond if you provide it invalid information. So that's fine. Let's go ahead and repeat that, but this time we will correct the workspace name. So let's copy that. Let's paste that over here. And this time I'm going to remove the S and give it the actual workspace name. And now let's try again. Okay, so after a few moments, VS Code is now successfully connected to the AdventureWorks semantic model held in the Byte Analytics-demo workspace. That is the first step we needed to overcome, and now we are connected in to the shared semantic model in the Fabric portal. So let's go ahead and create ourselves a new measure. And this measure is going to be called total cost. So let's instruct VS Code to do that for us. So I'm asking VS Code to create a total cost measure for me and save it under the measures table. So let's go ahead and hit enter there and see what is going to happen. Okay, after a minute or two, now I'm getting a message telling me that measure total cost has been created within the measures table. Okay, so that's great. So if I jump over to Fabric now, and if I refresh this particular screen here, this is a semantic model for AdventureWorks. And now let's look under the measures table. And now we can see our measure total cost, which is available to us. So just like before, where we were tapping into a Power BI desktop file, we can now achieve the same result, but this time we're working against a shared semantic model held in what was formerly called the Power BI service, but now it's the Fabric portal within a workspace. So that is a great step towards collaborative working as well. Obviously, it has its risks as well, but I'll come on to that towards the end. Okay, now that we've created the total cost measure, we now need to create a gross profit measure. And as I said before, the usual calculation for gross profit is sales minus total cost, and that will leave you with your gross profit. So let's go back over to Visual Studio Code and let's instruct to create a gross profit measure. Okay, so now I'm instructing VS Code to create a measure called gross underscore profit. Let's just capitalize that under the measures folder or measures table. Either way, it should be fine. And what I'm also specifying here is please use any existing measures in the calculation. Something I want to point out here is I'm not explicitly telling VS Code to use the sales amount and the total cost measures here. I'm leaving the instruction quite vague deliberately, just so that we can see what the MCP server within VS Code is going to do for us. So if it's acting correctly, it should detect sales amount and total cost automatically, and it should automatically know that gross profit is generally a calculation between the two measures. So let's go ahead and see what it's going to do for us. Okay, so after a few seconds, I'm now told that the measure gross profit has been created under the measures table using existing measures in the calculation. But remember, we did not tell VS Code at any point which measures, which existing measures it was to use. But let's go over to the Fabric portal then within our semantic model. Let's refresh this particular screen here. So let's expand the measures table here, and you can see that we now have a gross profit measure available to us. And if I click on that to check its definition, you can see here that VS Code has automatically detected that we had a sales amount measure and also the newly created total cost measure, which we created within this video just a few moments ago. And it's assumed, or it knows, that gross profit is typically a calculation between these two measures. So that is a very powerful way of starting out with something. Let's assume that as a user, we don't necessarily know what the gross profit calculation definition would look like. VS Code, or the MCP server within VS Code, can actually give you a very, very strong starting point. So that's how we can leverage the AI via the MCP server through VS Code and work against a shared semantic model. The only thing I would point out here is, because this is in a shared environment and a shared semantic model will be accessed by other people as well, you need to be very careful of what changes you are pushing through into the semantic model via the MCP server and via VS Code, because potentially you could be affecting someone else's work. So this is where the concept of branching and source control can help you with that situation. So in this video, I just wanted to show you how you can use the existing AI concepts we discussed in a previous video and work against a shared semantic model held within a workspace inside of the Fabric portal. I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you for watching.